This is Sports Today on Spreaker and also on Blog Talk as we come to you on the 6th of April. March Madness weekend, Major League Baseball has opened, the NBA is still going, and we'll immediately move to what happened in March Madness. The Huskies of Yukon were able to displace the overall favorite in the part of the Final Four. Connecticut, final score 63-53. Shabazz Napier was shut down to a certain extent. I believe he had 11 points, but at the same time, there was a situation there where he was able to assist them, and the Huskies played defense. The sports pundits had selected the University of Kentucky as, quote-unquote, the favorite. It did not happen at all. It was one of those games where the Gators were just literally outclassed, outdone, and that was the end of things there for the Gators. In the other part of March Madness, the team from Madison, Wisconsin, a very, very close game, could not get any closer than this, were stunned by the University of Kentucky. Now, this was a situation when you have a 74-73 score. That just basically means that anyone could win. Aaron Harrison was able to take care of business for the University of Kentucky. This was a very close game, could have went literally any way. So now we have a matchup between the Huskies of Yukon and a number 8 seed out of Louisville, Kentucky. That game will be played next week, and we'll see where it is going as far as the pundits and what they think will occur in that particular game in terms of matchups. The all-important matchups there. College basketball, one thing to always remember, we've always liked March Madness, particularly when we have the 64 teams. As the teams are, as they say, whittled down, I guess that's a word to use. It is a situation that we see and will continue to see upsets. And that is part of the whole scenario for March Madness. If you just had a cutout type tournament, that would never work for college ball. So the whole thing is surprises. It's starting out with some of the favorites that have fallen. Wichita State we can think of there, and a long list of others that have, as one would say, went home early. Our Michigan State went home early. UCLA went home early. Louisville went home early. So there's literally a whole list of teams that went home early. It's just our take at this particular time. The Huskies will be favored over Florida, at least by us. Now, by others, very difficult to make that particular call now, and we'll check now to see where that. We were looking at the model from Nate Silver. According to him, his model, Connecticut 45% chance of winning the tournament. The University of Kentucky 55%. Interesting situation there, and how the table was updated. It was updated last night to bring on the new challenges that were continuously occurring there. If we looked earlier, however, though, at some of the various machinations here. We look back at the University of Michigan State University, excuse me. They were favored over Connecticut, and of course Dayton at one time was favored over Florida. But we look at the many that had fallen there. Florida, UCLA fell. Dayton finally fell. Stanford in the earlier rounds fell. Iowa State, just to think of a few that were at one time there. Out of the South came Florida, of course, defeated Albany, Pittsburgh, and so forth. Out of the South, and of course, out of the East, Connecticut survives. Virginia is gone. Our favorite Harvard is gone. Iowa State was there. Villanova. Just looking at some of these teams, Arizona State, an early favorite was finally taken out by Wisconsin. And in that mix, you had Baylor, Creighton, etc. With Kentucky, you had Louisville, Tennessee, Michigan, all are gone. So that tends to show on how mad March Madness is, and of course we look forward to next week in the tourney, and perhaps to see a win by UConn. Now let's go to Major League Baseball. Being a baseball man, we sort of dwell on that, listen to a number of games today, at least parts of games. And they were interesting at best. Some of our favorite teams, of course, did not do as well. In Cleveland, the Twins were victorious 7-3. The Reds lost to the Mets in New York 6-3. The Yankees were shut out by the Blue Jays 4-0. The Atlanta team beat the Nationals in D.C. 6-2. The Mariners defeated the A's in Oakland 3-0. The Cardinals of St. Louis beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 6-1. The Brewers of Milwaukee beat our Red Sox 6-7 in Fenway Park. The Padres were blanked by the Marlins in Florida. The Angels beat the Astros 5-1 in Houston. The Diamondbacks were beaten by the Rockies in the Mile High City 9-4. They should have stayed in the desert. The Rangers of Texas were defeated by the Rays of Tampa Bay 5-4. So that is Major League Baseball. We'll go now to the NBA. I have a number of sports that are still going very, very strong indeed during this season in early April. As baseball is getting on the way, college basketball will leave the scene next week with the end of March Madness. The T-Wolves were defeated by the Magic, 100-92. The Bulls were victorious over the Wizards 96-78. The Bobcats 96-95. Very close game in Cleveland over the Cavaliers. The Celtics of Boston were defeated in the Motor City 115-111. Very close game there. The Nets of Brooklyn defeated the 76ers of Philadelphia 105-101. And the Raptors 101 over the Bucks of Milwaukee 98. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's old team. And the Dodgers were still about there losing ways, as one would say, in that they a loss again. Early in the season, in baseball at least, we have that occurring, and it continues to occur. These teams are playing in the spring in less than, as one would say, ideal surroundings. So we'll see quite a bit of that going on in these cold weather ballparks as we start this season off, particularly in the first part of April, and as we get into more the latter part and into May, these teams will start to come of their own. Also, the players will be seeing the pitchers more. Cubbies lost today. I guess we didn't get this. The Cubbies lost to the Phillies in Wrigley Field. They were shut out 2-0. Not the way for the Cubbies to be going. The Giants 7-2 over the Dodgers. Dodgers 4-3, 0-2 at home. And we gave the Braves and Nationals and the D-backs. So somehow we missed those two scores. But nonetheless, that does it for Major League Baseball. We'll look forward to more going on Sunday. And we've just started this. We did opening day baseball was our first episode of the year with B Sports Today. And what we're doing is we're turning this into a program that we will have more commentary on sports. One of the things we've been covering is the Players Union. That's in college basketball. Some of the coaches have asked the players not to vote for the union. In Evansville, this is from ESPN, Pat Fitzgerald is finally talking to his team about unionization and why players should vote against forming a union later this month. Fitzgerald broke his silence on Wednesday after confirming with university attorneys he'd been unable to address the topic. It's led by Kenan Cote, a former quarterback, is leading the effort, and we covered that. Fitzgerald says, I believe in their best interest to vote no following a team process with research I've done. I'm going to stick to facts and going to do everything in my power to educate our guys. Northwestern players will vote on April the 25th whether to form a union after the regional director of the NLB, that's the National Labor Relations Board in Chicago, ruled that they could. And this is monumental because for a very long time, college players have been treated like pros. They have very long processes. Their scholarships dependent on their performance, which means they spend much of their time on the football field or preparing to get on the football field. Fitzgerald, the article goes on, is prohibited from making promises to players about benefits they would receive. And this is what we saw in Tennessee. It was a little different there. We had state officials threatening to withhold various types of state aid from the German manufacturer Volkswagen. He's allowed to answer questions, provide materials, and state his views on the topic until 24 hours before the voting. Right now we have a great protocol in place, and we've been forced to do that not by any third party. Several older Northwestern players on Saturday voiced their opposition to a union, which, while maintaining that changes must be made to help college athletes, they say the union debate has been a distraction. The quarterback there, Trevor Steinem, said unionizing might hurt the Wildcats in their goals of winning a Big Ten title. I wonder how that would do if it happened. I think a lot of guys feel the same as I do, said Senior Center Brandon Venable, a member of the team's leadership council. Coach Fitzgerald has done everything in his power. This is a common thing, going along to stay along. He goes to the American Football Coaches Association. Venable added, no one knows what unionization would mean for the players. the College Athletic Players Association, which represents Northwestern players in the union push, believes collective bargaining would help athletes. There's no doubt about that. So we'll look to see where this will go. They do need to change, and I hope the NCAA does. That is Varick Mark. He's a senior running back. But at the end of the day, Northwestern treats us very well. I think some of these players are occurring favor for possible bids into the NFL, or at least with the university. Northwestern must file its request to appeal with the NLRB office by Wednesday. Capper then has several days to file a rebuff there. But nonetheless, the appeal on the 25th, they will vote unless other things change. Then will confirm that players are receiving information from both Northwest and Capper. Players will continue to discuss the pros and cons leading up to the vote, and will take place on the campus, of course, an undisclosed location, sort of like a Dick Cheney. It's a little weird, but at the end of the day, we'll all have to take our own stance. That's what Mark said. You'll have to go with what you believe. I believe strongly that Northwestern has done everything in their power to make me a better person, a better player. Well, that in itself is not really the case. It has to be looked at is what is best for the players in college basketball. Now, Fitzgerald's on the board of trustees and has discussed both the Big Ten and the NCAA. Part of the problem here, the NCAA, it's big money in college basketball. It's $1 billion industry. These colleges make the money. So the players in the last 30 years, 35 years, have been turning more into a professional team. And in some states that lack a quote-unquote professional team, these college teams serve as the pro team. You can look at several of those where it's a very big. High school football is very big in states like Texas. If you look at those and out west in Montana, it's even big in California. Although at the college level, there are many pro teams. I mean, there are many pro teams in northern and southern. At least there are at least two. But still, you have the college teams, the alumni playing in there, and in states such as, say, Ohio, college football is still very big, particularly in Nebraska, that has their big red machine there. In Oklahoma, they don't have pro football teams there, in Iowa and those teams. So what basically happens there is these players are substitute for professional players. And at one time, they received monies or jobs. They can't receive money directly now, and that's much more closely observed than it was, say, in the 70s. I can recall teaching where we were dealing with future NFL players. I won't name the institution, but they were, let's just say, accommodated or taken care of in the March there, and these quarterbacks went on to the NFL. So this is part of and partial of it. Was that a bad thing? In terms of the players, no. Where it does turn out to be a bad thing now is that many of the players are way over, I think about 98% of them will not go to the NFL. They will go home. They need to be able to go to jobs, and it is our opinion Capper would do a much better job of protecting these players, because they only have the vested interests of the players at hand and not having to do with the NCAA, which is basically a college-oriented institution that is dealing with college ball. But this whole issue coming up here in 2014 is very, very important. because of the advance of unionization on the part of fast food workers, now college athletes. It will not go away. This is only Northwestern where they have started, but it will occur at other universities, large and small, in the years to come, because of the problem of concussions. Very, very real problem. That will play itself out in the NFL. Some even predict in the NFL there could be a day that there not be an NFL, because the number of players that are injured, they are finding out that have this. Tony Dorsett is an example. Tony now has attacks where he's disoriented, doesn't know where he is, gets lost driving his kids to school, and in fact his kids avoid him because his behavior patterns change. And of course Junior Seau ended up a suicidal victim because of the particular brain disorder, and of course they can only determine it after autopsy, but they found out a number of these players, some are in, just as Dorsett is in, a little beyond his preliminary stage, where eventually his mental faculties will not only be affected, but his physical ability to do things, because it's a neurological problem. So these are things that college athletes have to look out for, because there are more college athletes out there when you look at the major universities, and then you look at other colleges, minor universities, in some cases even community colleges, in high schools. There's a lot of supervisory work must be done, and even in pee-wee football, if you can believe that. So these are issues that a union could best serve. Let's take a look at the schedule in Major League Baseball, and in particular betting. And this is an article from Las Vegas, ringing in the baseball betting season with 8 over-under total picks. This is on the 28th. Baseball, betting baseball. Grind's most recreational bettors aren't cut out for the grind. But much of it does for the players. The 162-game Major League schedule requires gamblers give daily deduction and uninterrupted focus. There's a popular way to cheat the system, however, and getting more popular every year. The over-under win. And this is player empirical comparison optimized test algorithm is what that stands for there. It has been around. Nate Silver has been, as they say, in this particular thing. The baseball season, which Silver played no role in producing, and the projection was 2010. And we'll put this in. What it basically does is compare every team against a database of roughly 20,000 Major League batter seasons since World War II. Uses metrics including career length and plate appearances and innings pitch. Fielding positions. It uses the nearest neighbor analysis to match individual players with sets of other players. In probabilities distribution, one of the things that does peripheral statistics. Won't go into all of this, but we will continue to go into it as we look at this particular setup. This is some of the things we'll be doing this season with sports talk. We'll get more into this as we go along here and see where we are with this particular prospectus here, and we'll keep, as they say, keep charting along here with it and see where we are and do some of these teams. So stay tuned for this. We'll get a little bit more analytical with this as we move along, and we'll have more information. This is just meant to be a little bit of an overview on baseball betting, but in the coming weeks we'll definitely have quote-unquote more red meat. Remember that old Mondale commercial of Where is the Beef? I guess the little old lady that made that has been dead for a long time. Good day.
Central, the AL West. They give us all the standings. They've got all the individual statistics as well. I want to go through the standings of the PECOTA projections, the rankings of the PECOTA. We start with the AL East. It's the Boston Red Sox finishing in first place. Now, in case you're going, fair weather PECOTA projections, they had them tied for second place last year, coming off a last place finish. But they've got the Red Sox and Rays tied for first place in the AL East with the Yankees, an 82-win team in third place. Orioles in last. As for the AL Central, the Tigers are going to, run away with this. The only team above 500 in the division, according to PECOTA. The Indians and Royals would be tied for second, both clubs 4 games under 500. The AL West, I think, is very interesting. The Oakland A's are projected to win their 3rd straight AL West title, finishing 1 game ahead of the Halos, 3 better than the Rangers, and the Mariners will be 2 games over 500, according to the PECOTA projections. In the National League, let's start in the East. The Washington Nationals, an 88-win team, 3 better than the Braves, everyone else under 500. In the NL Central, the Cardinals will reign supreme again, according to PECOTA, 5 better than the Reds. The Brewers will be in 3rd place, and look at the slide that they're projecting for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Wow.
6 games under 500, finishing only 7 better than the Chicago Cubs. And then the NL West, the deep pockets of the Dodgers, have them a 98-win team, the best team in baseball, according to PECOTA projections for 2014. The Giants will be in 2nd place. The Padres, a 500 club, and after all the tinkering with the Colorado Rockies, they're going to be in last place, 20 out. Now, every year that the PECOTA projections are released, do you take it with a grain of salt? Do you actually go, they're usually pretty close? How do you react to them?
Because we have to do our own. I look at it and go, that's interesting, how they got to where they did. I don't agree with hardly any of it at all. I just don't.
What's the biggest one? I mean, you agree with all the division winners.
The Dodgers, I don't think, will run away. We could go through the whole list again. There's a lot of things. I think the Royals are way better than they're giving them credit.
What about the Yankees, the 3rd place team?
They're going to be better. I mean, the pitching's going to be there. So the Yankees are going to be right at the top.
Pirates sliding to a 78-win
I don't see that much. They'll slide, maybe. But they could easily win that division, too, because I think the Pirates are the most interesting team in baseball. They can either go down or they can continue to trend up like they've been.
And then you got the NL East. I think they nailed it. The Nats, the Braves, the Phillies, the Mets, the Marlins. That's an easy one. In the West, they have the Padres, a 500 team. The Rockies in last place.
Yeah, I
feel like in this building, there are more people excited about the Colorado Rockies this year than there are excited about the San Francisco Giants.
No, I'm not as excited about the Rockies. I can see them at the basement, but I don't see the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers will have a little bit of a hiccup. 98 wins is tough to do. That's like a perfect season. They've already got some questions. We haven't even started spring training with 4 outfielders. Who's going to play? All those different things they got to figure out. Will they be reign supreme at the end? Yes. But it's going to take a little bit of time. I think some of those losses might come in there.
They also give you individual projections, which I think are a lot of fun. Let's bring in Keith Casas. Keith, are you a fan of the PECOTA projections and your entire department, the research department here at MLB Network? Do you guys really value these projections?
Fan of the projections. Sometimes the numbers are a little conservative, but the order is interesting. Who the leader's going to be, who's going to win the divisions.
Harold asked this question. Explain the PECOTA projections. I don't think I'm qualified to do that, but are you?
No, of course not.
Okay.
No.
All right, so let's move on to the individual statistics. The home run category. Jose Bautista is projected to hit 36 home runs, according to the PECOTA projection.
Coming off a wrist injury for the last year and a half.
You see Miggy at 33, Stanton with 33, Trumbo, big year.
I think Trumbo's more than that playing the ballpark he's in.
Ryan Braun projected to hit 30. Now, what is interesting about this category, Keith, that people need to know about?
No Chris Davis, no Pedro Alvarez, who led their leagues respectively. 26, 25 homers for them.
Wow.
Chris Davis is supposed to hit 26 home runs?
Less than half as many as he hit last year, 53 to 26.
Yeah, I disagree with that one.
Why?
Because I think Chris Davis has turned the table. He hit 37 the year before. He hit his 50-some. So I think he's figured out who he is, and he'll put the numbers up.
In case you're going, Miguel Cabrera, 33 home runs. But it looks like he's going to be in the Triple Crown mix, because if you look at the projections for RBIs, Miggy's got the highest number, 108, after having 137 a year ago. Then you have Jose Bautista.
They got numbers down offensively, huh?
Yeah,
Big time.
for a lot of people. Ryan Braun, a big year for Giancarlo Stanton, according to Pacoda.
See, I think you can put a big check, a question mark, on Bautista and Braun. We don't know what they're going to do.
Look at Joey Votto. 20 RBI increase they're projecting, up to 93 RBI.
I'd be really happy if that happened.
Any interesting omissions here, Keith Costas?
Davis again, from 138 down to 80 this year.
What? Wow.
They've got the Orioles in last place, so you got to figure that he's down a little bit.
Wow.
They're expecting a down year. Pacoda expecting a down year from Chris Davis. Now, let's go into Harold's favorite category, wins above replacement. Now, in this category, Mike Trout, who's been the WAR king, is, after having a 9.6 last year, is going to lead the way with a 6.8. Then it's Joey Votto, Robbie Cano, Matt Carpenter, Troy Tulowitzki, Ryan Braun, Miggy, and Giancarlo. I can get Chris Davis is not on this list. Anyone else that should be on this list, Keith?
No Goldschmidt, who led the NL last year with the monster season. No Chu, no Gomez, two sabermetric darlings. No NL MVP, Andrew McCutchen.
Wow. Well, the problem I have with WAR is there's nothing. It's not legit. It's just not a real stat. It's not. They can say whatever they want. It's not a real stat. It's based on the average of a AAA player that replaces somebody. It's not real.
It's a real stat. We just showed it.
Yeah,
it's right there on the screen.
It's actually,
they made it up.
Baseball Reference isn't going to put anything on its website that is.
It's not a real deal.
Well, okay, I understand that. I think Matt Carpenter is a tough one. I know he had a great one season, but to have him up there fourth ahead of Miguel Cabrera, Evan Longoria,
fourth would be a downgrade from last year, Greg. He was third in all the majors.
I get it, Keith, but it was one big year, and now I just don't. I need more history.
I'm sorry. When you got a
when
second
Harold
baseman,
says I'm sorry, when Harold starts apologizing, it's time for a break.